All right, let's break down what it's going to take to actually get a home here on the Central Coast. Currently in this market, we are in the summertime, spring just sprung, and things are getting pretty active out there. So I've heard a lot of stories, and you hear a lot of the news saying that things are slowing down, that prices are going down. So that is probably true in most areas. And I'm not saying that we are not experiencing that, but we do have a lot of activity. And I want to give you some tips on what you can do to win the home if that is what your goal is. So the first thing we're going to talk about is that you have to remember that even if you're cash, if you are a cash buyer, you still can get beat out. And I will give you personal examples of how that's happened. So on this particular home that just closed last month in the village of Arroyo Grande, came on the market. I had buyers that were specifically looking, and they went through the open house. They knew this was the one. Then I got the details from the listing agent, and I just know the market. I knew this was a hot property, and so did they. So there was a couple of tweaks that we did from when we initially started working together, and we won the house. So let me tell you what we did. And there was a cash buyer right behind us. So typically the homes go on the market, you have your broker caravan, and then open houses are done over the weekend, and you try to go into contract the following week, typically. So in this case, we knew there was going to be some activity and that it was a hot property. So what do? We get together. They were working with a big bank, and I said, that's probably not a good idea. So we switched that up to a local lender. We went in strong with the deposit. And of course, we went over asking. Not a lot, just a bit. So the thing that helped us win the house is that the cash buyer came behind us, and they didn't come up to even asking price. So knowing that there was already an offer on the table. So if you are a cash buyer, that doesn't mean that you're going to outbid a person that has a loan. So that is happening. You need to understand the market, and people will wait for, $20, $30, $50,000 more, because I've been on the other side of the coin where we didn't do that. And we lost it to somebody that was in a loan and we were cash, because the buyers went against my recommendations, which is fine, because I want you to always feel that you're doing the right thing. I am just going to guide you through the market. So at the end of the day, they won the house and we outbeat a cash buyer. This also was the case when I had a listing and my seller wanted a little bit of time after the close to move and do some things. And that didn't sit well with the cash buyer that kept coming back to us. And we kept saying, it's not going to work, with you not giving us that little extra time. And this person, my seller, kept the house immaculate. I mean, it was like pristine and well kept up. It wasn't like anything was going to happen afterwards. So they weren't listening and they didn't get the house. And we went with an offer. 2 offers on the table, 1 cash, and then the other buyer had a loan in place, and we went with the finance buyer. Not only were they accommodating to what my seller needed, but they were working with an agent that I was familiar with. The lender gave me a call. They told me they were solid. They had already DU underwriting. There was just a lot of things that were really working in their favor, because it takes all of us. So just remember that if it's a hot property in a good location, and your cash, doesn't mean that you're going to be able to negotiate down or bring a lowball offer on the table. The seller is just not going to look at you, or possibly not even give you a counter, which can be annoying to you, but they're not going to do it. So take that in mind, that cash isn't always an opportunity to come in lower in our current market here on the Central Coast. All right, as we're moving along, at the very end, I'm going to give you just some logistical tips that'll also help you, whether you're working with me or your other agent. I've ran into a lot of you this month coming into town and recognizing me and actually using other realtors, but telling me that my videos are helpful. So that brings me joy, because I love this area and I just want to be a resource for you in any way, shape, or form. So the next thing is, what I want to tell you is, be ready. When you know where you're going to buy out here on the Central Coast, especially if it's in a well sought out development or community, neighborhood, location, and another factor for our area is if it has views and that's what you're looking for, or a distance to the ocean, or in an exclusive neighborhood. If you know exactly where you're going to be moving and you've been doing your homework, coming in and doing what I call discovery visits or discovery calls with your agent, me, whoever, and you know where you're going to move, you've got to be ready. I have had buyers this year that are in the state of California and are, X amount of hours for a drive, and we know it's coming on the market and they're ready. So I'll either do a FaceTime and then they'll get over here however they can, depending on their schedule and just the relationships that I have with agents. They're going to tell me how quick that seller is going to move, or if they'll wait for us because they know that they're ready and serious to, pull the trigger. And I've had recently clients from out of state, flying in a few times at this particular planned community that we have that's very exclusive here on the Central Coast in Napomo, California. It's called Trilogy. It's a golf community and it's very well sought out. They came out, we've saw, 6 or 7 homes. Then they came out again. And then, one flew off the market and then they didn't get to see it because it went into escrow and nothing was really vibing with them. Then they flew back and then that one fell out of escrow. And so we had another buyers come out, and because they were putting their house on the market, all these things are going on, and we won the house because the house, checked the boxes and they knew they wanted to live in this neighborhood. So it was time, and they were able to win the house. So that was really exciting, and it can be stressful, but you have to be ready if this is the move for you and you're going to move over here to the Central Coast. There's only certain homes that come up in certain areas, and they usually come in waves. One comes on the market and maybe another one and then maybe another one. But here's the thing, not all two are alike in design, in floor plan, in view. So you really have to know what you're going to be flexible on, especially when you're ready to go. So again, be ready. Be ready to come out and look at the properties when they hit the market, because in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that property will be gone. It's just how the market is. And I will show you some graphs to show you what's happening here currently. But again, be ready so you can win the house. All right, here's another one that's super important. And it really baffles me how some agents send me offers and haven't even called me to ask any questions, or when I put exclusive details in the agent private remarks to help the agent understand what I'm looking for as a listing agent, and it's completely ignored. It just baffles me. So my suggestion to you is understand the seller's needs. Understand what the seller is looking for before you have your agent write the offer. I always call the listing agent and find out what it is that the seller needs. I read what's in the multiple listing service, that the agent takes the time to let me know a little bit of what the seller would like. For example, some sellers say, and this is a common trend right now in our market, so take note of it, is some sellers want to close quickly, a 30, 20, 30 day, 40 day escrow, and then they would like to stay in the home after the close of escrow. So essentially, you, the buyer, become their landlord. And that could be a 30 day, that could be a 2 week for whatever reason. So, those details are so important for you to know before you write your offer. And again, have your agent take the time to find out what the seller needs. Now, that's not to say that you don't have any say in the deal, but if it's a hot property and you've been searching and you're looking for, just, work together. And again, this is where relationships, would you agree, in any business, relationships are super important. So that's where I feel I've been able to win the homes for my buyers, is I have the relationships with these agents locally that I can find out, well, my buyer needs this. Do you think it's going to work or not? And that way it just alleviates stress for everybody. You have a realistic idea of what your expectations can be in this transaction. You might have a seller that's like digging their heels. This is how it's going to go, or don't buy my house, or you're going to just feel emotionally drained. And if you know that and take the emotion out, and that's where we come in as your professional real estate brokers, is we help you maneuver through the process. If that's the house you want, but we're going to have to deal with someone that's not going to be so fun to, then, we just have to be professional about it, and we will take care of it and get you through. However, for the most part, these transactions have been pretty pleasurable. There's been a few little nuances here and there, but communication is key. And again, knowing what the seller would like to have in the transaction or what their needs are, that's what you as a buyer should really embrace and take advantage of and leverage. That's when you can beat that cash buyer, and that's where you can have a more pleasant experience as well. And the sellers appreciate it. And if you're a very solid, qualified buyer, they need you too. So you have that to your advantage. But again, have the agent, give the listing agent a call, your buyer's agent, however it may be working on whatever end you're at. Have that communication and understand what the seller needs, so that if they're going to be making any repairs for you or not. What to expect from this particular seller again. And it just makes it so much more stress-free. So just take that extra step. It really helps out a lot. So be sure and understand the seller's needs. All right, so now I'm going to share some logistics with you to kind of give you some pointers of things that maybe wherever you're coming from, whether you're in California or in another state, that you understand kind of what's happening here locally in our market, what market trends are, and what you can do to have an advantage in this market as a buyer. Now, if you're finding any of this information of value, it would be so helpful if you give us a like and then leave me a comment of any of these things that are making sense, don't make sense, or any questions that you're coming up with. And that helps me answer those questions for you and make more videos for you. I really appreciate that. And subscribe if you'd like to be part of the community. We'd love to have you as you are making your way over here to the Central Coast. All right. So when you write an offer here in California, you're going to deal with an escrow company. So that's a neutral third-party company that handles the logistics of the contract. So the contract goes to this party, the escrow, and they handle the legal transaction of the transaction, which means that if there's any liens, they making sure there's that it's clear title, and also handle all of the money, all of the funds. They are not allowed to make any changes without both parties' signatures on a document making any changes. So this is how it's handled here in California. So that is something that's not everybody's familiar with. That's who you would wire what's called your earnest money deposit when you get your offer accepted. And that has to be sent over to escrow, typically by wire, by the escrow wire instructions. About 3 business days, not calendar days, business days to escrow, and it sits there while our transaction is going on. Now, typically, you want to offer a 3% earnest money deposit. It says people can do 1 to 3. Usually first-time home buyers tend to do maybe a 1 to 2. Our higher end, we're typically looking for a 3% at minimum. So just have that number in mind. That'll make your offer much stronger if you go 3% for your earnest money deposit or more. So that is a tip for you as you're doing your negotiations. Another thing that we're seeing here currently is a lot of the sellers are getting reports ahead of time. That is the home inspection. And in our area, particularly here on the Central Coast, is we have termites. So there is an inspection that's done, and it's available, for review. Or if the seller's not going to get it, then you might think about getting it yourself. So when reports are available, you have the liberty of accepting those reports and just signing off on them, and sometimes the sellers will leave the termite aside because they're not sure if you're going to want that or not. Because here, if there's a lot of termites infesting the house currently, the house has to be tented. So there's fumes that are used and the house is covered, and there's a certain number, X number that's going to take to be done. Some people don't want that done, or some people just want that off the price and they'll take care of it after close of escrow. And sometimes that's more appealing to sellers to have you do it as the buyer. So let's say, the number's, $3,500. So they would say, this, if you as a buyer can write an offer and say, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it after escrow, give us a credit, or depending if you have multiple offers, you would just take that off the table and say, you'll handle it and take care of the cost. So those little things are available to you ahead of time. If you choose to accept them, that's fine, or you can get your own home inspection. Now, I've had it both ways with different buyers where they're fine with the home inspection that's been provided. I know most of the home inspectors in the area, so I can tell you, that's a reputable home inspector that I even use. But even so, we've had one inspection given to us ahead of time, and then they went ahead and had theirs, and there was a thing or two missed from the original inspection that was provided. So again, that's a personal decision for you. Just like going to a doctor, no two doctors can tell you the same thing sometimes. One finds one thing and then the other one finds another. So personal decisions to be made there. But again, these are things that are offered to you. And if it's to make the transaction easier for you as the buyer. Here, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here are these reports to help you decide if this is the house for you before you write your offer. And again, you are open to, do your own inspections as well, but it is something to consider for convenience and to get you through investigation periods that you have here in California, which the standard is 17 days, and you can back out at any time before that. And this is one of the strongest things that you can do to help you in negotiations with your offer as a buyer to a seller is you can tighten up your contingency periods. What that means is we, by default, have X amount of days for certain things, whether it's your loan, appraisal, and your inspection contingencies. So until you remove at minimum your loan contingency, if you're getting a loan, that stays in place. So that kind of has the seller nervous. They're just kind of waiting for you to get that through. If you're a cash buyer, then the only thing you can really tighten up is your inspection contingency. That's where you review if you're moving into a development, homeowners association documents, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, things. If there was an HOA, all the disclosures that the seller has to provide to you, everything that escrow has to provide to you to clear everything of the liens and title of things of that nature for you to review. So if you can tighten those periods up, and that's working with your particular realtor or broker, there's lenders that can remove the appraisal contingency and just have the loan contingency in place because they're not worried about the appraisal. So there's different things that you can do as a buyer in those contingency periods that will make the seller have more peace of mind that you're going to perform, that will help you in those negotiations. Now, again, it's case by case, house by house, because each seller has a different tolerance for risk and different tolerance for what they're okay with. We can never assume that just because it's no big deal to you, that it isn't going to be a big deal to the seller. That's a very important thing for us to put our head around as you're going into negotiations here on the Central Coast. A young couple versus an elderly couple is going to react to certain things differently. Have they recently sold a house? Is there a lot of emotion in the sale of the house? Things like that nature. So again, going back to that factor of what's important to the seller. So if you can tighten up those contingencies, that would be a really, really smart move, especially if there's multiple offers, or if you just really, really want the house and want to make it a really nice transaction for the seller. All right, so let's take a look at some numbers. So I know that many of you are wondering if, I get always, is it slowing down? Is the market going down? In essence, some properties are, some of the higher end, or some that are just overpriced and just aren't taking into consideration a busy road or a weird floor plan or just all kinds of different things. And those are case by case, location by location. So that's where you need to work with a local broker, a local person that really knows boots on the ground, what's going on. So let's take a look at some numbers right now. And let's see what's been currently going on and evaluate from the past, so we can see how much is it really transitioning right now, because this will help you feel really good about moving forward about a property if you find it here. All right, so let's take a look at these numbers down here. So here's the year 2022, 2023, 2024 for San Luis Obispo County, and we are evaluating the month of May. So actually what it looks like, our homes, we have more homes in this month that we did last year and the year before. So more inventories coming on the market. So to say that there's not a lot to choose from, well, that's relative to the boom that we had, a couple years back. Everybody's still kind of digesting that and having a little bit of an issue letting go of that, but we're still moving along. So there's what we have for the county, and I want to show you the month supply, because when we go to a buyer's market, you're pushing into leaning more to a 6-month amount of inventory. And so from 2023, we're at 2.5 months. That means if nothing else came up on the market right now, we'd only have 2.5 months of inventory left to sell, and then it'd be done. Now we're at 2.9, so it's gone up a little bit more. And so we're definitely not at that 6-month mark, which is the months that we need for it to start going into a buyer's market, hence prices perhaps going down. So that's just our local information. And then let's look at sales price. So we've got the median pricing right now is at for 2024 is 803,500, and it's staying pretty solid, gone down a little bit, but it's not plummeting. And then the average is always going to be higher, because the higher homes skew these numbers. So when you go to the average, then it just bumps everything to a whole nother bracket, which is, scary, because you're in almost everything's $1 million around here if you take the average. So we'll go with the median, which is right in the middle there. So, just to let you know. And the other thing I wanted to show you was what the pricing is on the median of the list price. So everything's selling pretty close to what they are listing for, and our price per square foot median is $530 in the area, just so you have that in your back pocket. But certain areas, especially like the higher end areas, more exclusive, are going to be higher. That's probably where this average is going to go up a little bit more, $569. I mean, I've been selling homes that are 700 square foot or 600 in the 600s per square foot. So again, case by case, area by area is what's totally important for you to know and really have an idea of what's going on here in the local market. So I just want you to be aware of that, and we can always go over numbers exclusively. Even when I do things with people in a planned unit development, an exclusive golf community or something like that, when you break it down, the numbers can still be off to some extent, because some have more views, some have different orientation, an extra bathroom, the different amenities, added amenities that the other one didn't down the street. So there's a lot of variation in this. So, just work with someone local in your area. As always, you know how to find me. You can text me, you can email me, you can book a call with me. I have now a new feature that you can reach out to me and we can have a discovery call. and we really get to know each other and understand what it is you're looking for to make it a lot easier for you. And you can stay on top of everything and, win the house. So I hope that you found this hopeful. As always, leave a comment and like the video if it was informative to you, and subscribe if you want to be part of the community. So we will see you at the next video.